The Mahaica Mahaicony Abary Agricultural Development Project was first conceptualized in 1952, and the project proposals were finalized 10 years later. Today, the area commonly called the MMA is said to support half of this country's rice production, about a third of all livestock, mostly cattle, and about 10% of national sugar production. At the heart of the project is the biodiversity-rich water conservancy. But in the previous 5 years, the scheme was almost brought to its knees when the then APNU+AFC government cancelled the subvention the MMA's Agriculture Development Authority depended on to fix the dams and drainage and irrigation canals and structures. Farmers were stunned too, and charges for using the land skyrocketed. But now, the new PPP government is executing a virtual rescue operation. The vast reservoirs which support the Mahaica Mahaicony Abary Agriculture Development Project, a catchment area of some 312 square miles, traps rainwater in the upper reaches, and it flows down to a lake measuring some 125 square miles, which then holds the water to irrigate tens of thousands of acres of agricultural lands. These are used mainly for cultivating rice and sugar and cattle rearing. Here, we are at the 7-door sluice where the Abary River ends. At this junction, it goes 8 miles to the Mahaicony River and the other side 22 miles to the Berbice River. The conservancy was constructed in 1985, the idea being to provide water control for the coastal lands up to a distance of some 30 miles inland. What barricades the water from the lands until it is ready to be released to farmers is this dam, so keeping it in check from collapsing is of paramount importance.
Any breach on this dam will create a catastrophe in the area. Everybody, all the lands in the Abary end will flood going to the Berbice River.
Mahendranath Ramjit is the Drainage and Irrigation Manager with the MMA ADA. He's been working here for 12 years. He took us along the Conservancy Dam to show us the works ongoing to protect the integrity of the dam, to keep it in place.
The work what we're doing here is to clear and grub in right now with the excavator. And the reason we're doing this is because we have done some survey recently, and we have picked up some low section of the dam where we need to heighten. And this year, from our budget this year, we have received 7.5 million to carry out works on this Conservancy dam. And there are currently 5 low spots that are already identified, and that work has started. The first work is the preparatory work, and in another 2 days we will start heightening the bad section and the low section.
But of course, that money is a joke compared to the work that you need to do here, right?
Obviously, we still get a lot of more works in the Conservancy and a lot more development in different sections, because this is just the left bank we're talking about right now. We have the next section, which is the right bank, and that is 22 miles long of dam. And we still get the Barrow Trench to clean also, and the Barrow Trench is the same length of the dam.
The actual Conservancy dam stretches some 35 miles, and at the head of the Abary River, it is 38 feet high. To keep the dam in place and do some improvements, Ramjit has some new equipment, and he keeps a close eye on what needs to be done.
This is a new excavator in the Conservancy. We recently refurbished this pontoon, and it has a bin. And with this right now, all you need additional is to get more infrastructure, maintain infrastructures, the MCHR, which is the main canal head regulator, the 7-door sluice, carry out maintenance work on it. There is a 7-door sluice. All those structures, if we have any breach or any tampering with them, can cause the same effect that the dam can cause in flooding the area.
The Conservancy, though, is just one aspect of this agricultural development scheme. For the lands to be beneficially utilized, a carefully designed system of drainage and irrigation was put in place and needs to be maintained.
Well, the MMA scheme is the largest agriculture scheme in our country. And you know for a fact that Region 5 normally produces the largest acreage of rice, and rice production there is the largest. And that scheme is important not only for rice production, but other crops and the cattle industry. So that's a very, very important scheme, and that scheme contributed a lot to our GDP in terms of agriculture output.
The work to be done to maintain the MMA scheme is considerable. The Agricultural Development Authority, the ADA, is responsible for the operation and maintenance of 784 miles of drainage and irrigation canals, 381 structures, including cokers, sluices, bridges, aqueducts and regulators, and 4 pump stations. The scheme was left in dire straits under the last administration. Shortly after he was sworn in, the Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, stepped in.
When the minister had an outreach in different areas, Minister of Agriculture, he would have faced to the actual situation in the ground where that farmers were suffering from drainage, and all of the channels them were clogged up and blocked, and the farmers could not have proper drainage. Some of them were at the stage to lose their crop.
So first of all, I heard that the scheme was in a very bad state, that they were blocked canals, the infrastructure was almost collapsing. I had, first of all, meetings with the farmers across the Region 5. MMA covers the entire Region 5 from Mahaica to Ithaca. So at those meetings, farmers lamented the poor state of the infrastructure within the scheme, and they said that they were unable to bring out their paddy. And many farmers were also were saying that they were unable to go back to the land because the infrastructure was not there, drainage and irrigation was not there, the water was not coming to the land and things like that. So after meeting with the farmers, I went and had a first-hand look at the scheme, and it was in a very deplorable and terrible state. And immediately I asked our engineers to do a survey and come up with a quantity, and we did a budget, and the budget came up to about just about $90 million. At that time, we did not have a budget yet, but we were preparing for the emergency budget. But because of the serious condition and the nature of that scheme, and the importance of the farmers to bring out their paddy and get things in shape, I had to go to Cabinet for an emergency fund. And Cabinet approved $90 million to do emergency works in the scheme. And because of that, we have had a number of rehabilitative work started. And I'm happy to say now that most of the canals are clean, the dams are in better shape, and we are also working on those cokers and boxes to make it back operable so that farmers can have better drainage and irrigation and better access to their farmlands.
From that program, we cleaned almost over 250 channels and over 545 miles of canals and drains in part of it.
Just about 170,000 acres of land are being used by farmers. They pay a fee to maintain the drainage and irrigation systems and a rent to use the land. But it is not enough to do all that needs to be done.
You need the government support because at the age of the infrastructure, the works has been, most of the infrastructure has been deteriorated. The dams we don't have asphaltic road. We have all-weather road which is deteriorating. So the funds is not adequate to carry out. More capital works need to be injected in the MMA. So the project need to be rehabilitated.
Farmers like Shamir Suban were at their wits' end when the program to fix roads and drains were neglected for lack of funds when the previous government stopped the subvention to the MMA-ADA, saying that farmers should pay more and that money should be used for maintenance works.
Rice farming for me is very nice, but let me say in the past 5 years that APNU government went in power, we feel severe pressure due to drainage, irrigation, and perhaps a dam, especially the MMA all-weather road, which is supposed to be all-weather road that you can come in and go out anytime. Double drive tractor couldn't come in here, so for the 5 years we can't get to control the crop properly.
For Mr. Suban, the flurry of activities in the scheme now is a welcome sign.
Now for the past couple months, I guess, the PPP take office. I see all the trends clean, that is very nice. For we as rice farmers, that is the most important thing. Drainage and irrigation. If you can't get good drainage or irrigation, we can't get a good crop. On the other hand, Well, for this crop here, what we notice, well, we get a lot of blasts. You know, the blasts come due to the weather. So we take blows this crop because most farmers I talk to cut like 12, 15 bags per acre. You know, but that not mean that we're gonna stop plant rice. We still gotta go again.
For others like Mr. Suban, rice in the MMA is all they have known. It's a family business, as it is a tradition.
It starts from generation. My grandfather was planting rice, and my father started to plant rice. We leave school and go with my father to start planting rice. So I start working combine at the age of 12 years. Start work combine and tractors.
For rice to be a success, it depends on the infrastructure.
When it's rainy season, it's hard. When you not get like, for the past 5 years, let me go back to that way again. You not get access to come to the field. Then, you know, then you gotta come down bad. Well, if you do reach, you gotta pump in water, you gotta pump out water, you know, that make it hard. But like time like now, when you get good drainage, good irrigation, you get good dam, it's not hard. It's a very easy work at this time.
And it's not just the neglect of the drainage and irrigation system which made life difficult for farmers. The charges for using the land was also increased. Mr. Ramjit explains how bad the situation was.
We increased the fees and didn't provide the service, and it was actually suffocating in most areas where they could not take out the crop a couple of years back. They had to use 2 grain cart and two tractor pull 1 grain cart out of the field, and they have to do it for a long distance, and that will increase their cost of production. Some of them were saying they're not going to plant back rice or they're coming off the land, and we had seen cases like that where people just couldn't go in the rice field anymore.
The new PPP government has now reduced the fees to the pre-2015 rates and has done more to ensure the MMA remains vibrant.
The former government didn't have any vision. They increased land rental and DNI charges by almost 600%. The charges moved from $1,000 to sometimes $15,000 per acre, and they didn't do any work in the scheme. They allowed the scheme to deteriorate. And we, as when we went to the campaign, we said that we'll reduce the land rental as long as we get elected. We were elected, and we have done that, and farmers now are feeling better. They are getting more money in their pocket. As a matter of fact, only yesterday, a farmer called me and he was so joyous. He said that when he went there, he paid $1,000 per acre for land. So now a farmer will save $14,000 per acre. And the DNI charge came down from $8,000 to $2,500. And farmers now are feeling happy because these are the things will help farmers to go back and contribute and produce. Because when farmers, for example, we reduce the DNI charges, we reduce the land rental. That alone, farmers, if a farmer plant, for example, 15 acres, and the land rental alone, farmer will save $210,000 annually from the rental. Then the DNI charges, and then the inputs in agriculture, for example, fertilizer, pesticides, things like equipments, machinery, all those things, the 14% VAT we take out from. So farmers now will have more money, and farmers now are more elated to go and cultivate their lands there. I had a number of meetings after we have commenced work there in the Mahaica Mahaicony area, in the creek, and farmers now are just eager to go back there, and they want more land to do cultivation. As a matter of fact, the roads are better off now, and I am hoping that we can maintain the state of that scheme so that farmers can have those access, because you know in the creek area, the farmers depend not only on the cultivation dam, but the cultivation dams lead them to their homestead too. So they're using those dams for dual purpose, to go to the cultivation and also go to their homes. So I'm hoping that we can continue to maintain and keep that. I have instructed that in various parts of the scheme that we have machine placed at strategic point, and those machines will be permanently placed there, and they will have access to do smaller acreage rather than get 1 or 2 machines in the entire scheme. So I am hoping to make those machines available more and more machines to the scheme so that we can have immediate works can do whenever there are issues in the scheme.
There are plans in train to develop this road into an all-weather access road.
If they can pitch that road, it gonna make we as farmer more comfortable for pitch the road. So we can come anytime and we can go anytime. And then if the road pitch, farmers here can do so much other things like mining livestock, plant a garden, because you're gonna be more easy access.
We have that in the budget, and that is the farm to market road and all-weather access road, and hopefully we can get that start coming soon, and that will help farmers tremendously. And in next year's budget, I'm hoping that we can do more of those farm to market access road, more of those all-weather road, because over the years people have been suffering tremendously in that scheme. And there's a culture in that scheme that people don't want to come out and live any other place. So hopefully we can get, and over time, we can develop the scheme into and get a number of all-weather roads.
Apart from rice farming, cattle rearing is the next big activity in the MMA.
Yeah, I've been giving them some painkiller. They get swell foot.
While there are pasture lands, some use the dams for grazing, like Floyd Chiffon. How long have you been doing this?
For 20-something years. My grandfather used to mine cow, my father, and then me start.
He moves elsewhere when the farmers restart the crop.
But when the rice start plant, you can't graze them here. You got to carry them to a pasture where rice not plant. That is far up in the top side. They work hard, you not really get the amount of money from it and so, but you gotta do it because you like the cow them. You can't part from the cow them, you can't do without them, So you gotta keep to a way that makes something work out.
Yeah, pretty much Region 5 has been one of the a great area for cattle farming, especially with the MMA and the services they produce, provide to help cattle farmers. Well, my dad has always been in the cattle industry, cattle farming. He was a butcher at one time. So I pretty much followed in his footsteps. We have about 350 head of cattle on this plot of land. It's about 350 acres. So we do rotational grazing to accommodate, the cattle.
Tell me how this would be for you if there wasn't support for the MMA and the kind of work that they do in these lands.
That would have been a disaster. You could have just gone small scale cattle farming, whereas with the services they provide in terms of drainage and irrigation, and then you get access to water for the cattle, and it makes it a whole lot easier to plant grass and get different variety of grass and stuff.
We have heard how bad things were the past 5 years and that these lands were neglected. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since we for example, if I could take you to this drain and the other drain, and the trends that are for drainage and irrigation are pretty much clogged up. So I'm hoping, we get some relief in that sense. I know the MMA is currently doing cleaning a lot of trenches now, and hopefully they get down to this point at some time.
The government has every intention of continuing to support the Mahaica Mahaicony Abary Agricultural Development Authority, and for sure it needs that support if it were to realize the original idea to put 450,000 acres to use.
Over the years, I think we have to continue to maintain that scheme, and I am, as Minister of Agriculture, I intend to open more lands in that scheme so that more farmers can have access to cultivation lands there, and also to continue the development that we started when we were in government there, to do the rehabilitation and things like that. So in the new budget for the next year, I hope that we can have substantial sum budget for that scheme to continue the rehabilitation, to get land clear, to get more farmers in the scheme, and also to get farmers to have better access to their cultivation areas and things like that.
There is potential for much more than just farming in the MMA. and farmers like Romel Jagroup recognizes this. This area is special for you.
Yeah.
Because well, you said that you're trying to bring more people to see at the back here. Tell me about those plans.
Yes, I think like the area at the back here, it's not being explored by a whole lot of people except farmers, whether you're a rice farmer or whether you're a cattle farmer. But we need to bring people there. There's like a lot of activities you can do: bird watching, fishing, experience a ranch life, like whereby milk cow and cows. So we're trying to like put some contemporary accommodation where you don't feel like you're totally away from home. You get like a bar, good living accommodation, maybe a pool.